Hello everyone, so we just had the newest patch in Marvel Snap release, and with that came one of the biggest changes to Spider-Man I could have ever imagined. This one came out of left field, but it's changing him from a 5/4 with the ability lock down this location, your opponent can't play cards here on the next turn, into a 3-cost 5 power that has the owner reveal, move to another location, grab an opponent's card from the location, and pull it to the new location. So wherever you play it, it's going to grab a card from and move it to the new location. So this is going to be useful in like Kraven builds. It definitely gives him more flavor with like Miles Morales, with Ghost Spider, and just the overall Spider package, except for Spider-Ham. He's kind of out in his own left field. But today we're going to be leveraging him in a Kraven mid-range deck. This one isn't going to be control heavy. It's not going to lock down the opponent entirely. Sometimes it can, but it is going to be looking to do a lot of good value, do a lot of movement, buff up a Kraven. If you draw him, you have the variable power that can float across the board in your Captain Marvel, in your Silk, in your Miles Morales, your Spider-Man, your Jeff, your Nightcrawler, all kinds of movement enabling cards to help buff your Kraven up, help buff your Angela up. If you get Jean Grey, a lot of ways to cheat power into a different location and then move those cards out later. And just overall, the package itself is incredibly fun. This is one of my most favorite mid-range decks. I'm really a fan of Silk in general, but don't worry, if you don't have Silk, I know that this has 3 really expensive cards, and then I guess 4 really expensive cards in the Jeff, in the Silk, in the Jean Grey, and the Legion. All of those are replaceable. Don't stress about those. They are very replaceable. If you don't have Legion, Chavez is going to give you a bit more consistency in drawing those early game cards. So you'll have your Kitty Pryde, your Kraven, your movement cards more often. And then the other 3, the Silk, the Jeff, and the Jean Grey, all are interchangeable here. You could do a Polaris. You could do a Juggernaut. Both of those lean into the movement enabling abilities. You could also do something like a Storm. Having so many cards that can move across the board, Storm is going to be beautiful, especially if you get Jean Grey in one lane and then Storm in another location. It's going to be really hard for the opponent a lot of times to fight for that Storm location, giving you a very easy lockdown in the process. And then if you want to get real cheeky, you could do Professor X to really lean into the Jean Grey disruption, but that's not my personal favorite line. I would much rather go with the Polaris, Juggernaut, or Storm package, and then leave Silk, leave Jean Grey, leave Jeff if you have them, but they can all kind of be interchanged depending on which ones you have. We're going to be jumping into a couple of different games. I have several different games. Not all of them are going to showcase Spider-Man. They are all going to be showcasing a different win condition from the deck, whether it be a Captain Marvel, whether it be the Shang-Chi, the Spider-Man. All of them are going to showcase different angles that this deck does well and finds ways to win. And so before we jump into the games, our subscriber numbers have continued to absolutely skyrocket. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. And just a real quick plug, if you're not currently subscribed, definitely consider subscribing. It helps out the channel, it helps me out, and I enjoy having you guys here, and I love our community growing. We're going to jump into a couple of games. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. Scary because we just dropped a Silk on them. Let's do Angela, Kitty Pryde. We have Jean Grey, but I don't know that we use her. Maybe we do Kitty Pryde into Moir Island and then Jean Grey into the big house next turn, just as a way to get the opponent to not be able to play directly into Moir Island as much. Plus, it's kind of like Goose in the Jean Grey. If they have something small, they'll have to drop it into the big house, which is kind of unfortunate in general. Silk comes down. Ooh. Spider-Man, I don't know that we really want to leverage here. I'm going to go ahead and do the Jean Grey into the big house. We're going to do Kitty Pryde into Moir Island. We want to continue to allow that lane to just elevate as much as possible. They do use Storm here, so we can yank one of their cards out of the flooded location. And I think it's definitely worth experimenting with. You know, sometimes the Legion play just comes to you, you know? When it does, you know, don't fight it. Just give in to the Legion. We are Legion. So 2 cards come down. We should have the lead in the left lane. Depending, Polaris pulls our Angela over. It buffs up the Kraven in the middle location, but I think that's perfectly fine. We have a commanding lead in the flooded lane. Now, if they have a Jeff and they play it into this location to the left, could be kind of scary. To potentially combat that, I'm going to move our Nightcrawler into this left lane. That way, if they do Jeff, it's not enough to win this lane, and then our Silk can bounce wherever she wants to. We do get the retreat. I actually don't think this was a bot. It seems like a very cohesive lockdown deck. It's just we had Legion. All right, next up we have Mac. We have Kraven, we have Silk, and we have Spider-Man. Beautiful start. Spider-Man has been eluding us so far, and I think this is going to be the perfect opportunity. Honestly, I may skip the first couple of games showcasing this deck. The deck does well even outside of Spider-Man, but since this is a Spider-Man showcase, I may be a little selective on which games actually make it. So if this is the first game, there's been several other games. We've went up about 7 ranks. It's just Spider-Man hasn't been phenomenal in those, and the ones that he has, it's been against bots, and so it's really been kind of tough to find the perfect balance. The 10 power Silk that's going to bounce around the board is going to be marvelous. Also, Spider-Man yanking a card over will be really cool. Let's do Kraven into the unknown location. I think next turn we do something like just Silk into Shuri's Lab. Maybe we do Angela plus Kitty Pryde into the following turn doing a Silk plus Kitty Pryde. I don't know. We have a couple of turns to develop. They have the Zabu, which they don't use in the Onslaught Citadel. Interestingly enough. That's a call. I don't know if it's the correct call. I probably would have played it into the Onslaught Citadel, but that's just me. I know they probably wanted to double the power. Maybe they're planning on doing something like a Legion to get rid of Onslaught Citadel, and so they don't want to lean in on it. I don't know. I can only speculate what I've seen. We could do Spider-Man, but I'm also afraid of yanking that card into the Onslaught Citadel, honestly. And anything we play into Quantum Realm won't bump Silk, so Silk is now just stuck. She's stationary in Quantum Tunnel. It's one of those things, kind of like if Angela pops up there, then nothing actually buffs her up. It's kind of a little bit unfortunate, but I think it's fine nonetheless. We have the Kitty Pryde we're gonna prioritize playing her every turn now, because she will double each turn in Shuri's Lab. They go for Korg. Okay, so the Zabu, this is probably just a Hawk deck, right? Wow, the Korg into the Rock Slide rotation was big. Whoa, and it does move Silk. Maybe it was corrected. Maybe I was wrong. I don't know. I've never been more happy to be wrong. The Shang-Chi is just going to come in absolutely massive here on the last turn. Do we ever do a Spider-Man to move their cards out of this lane? I kind of like the Captain Marvel instead. I know that we have the Spider-Man. I know. But he's not with Jeff, they can move. Zabu, it could potentially give them a deeper discount. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. The Shang-Chi takes out our Silk, but now the Shang-Chi is done. He's on the board. They're not going to be able to re-trigger it. We have the massive Kitty Pryde that's going to be at least, I guess at minimum 11 power, at max 22 if we play her in Shuri's Lab again, which we absolutely are going to. 22 power Kitty Pryde. We have the 10 power Captain Marvel that can move over here and buff this one up, move over here and buff this one up. I'm going to go ahead and manually move our Nightcrawler to enable the Kraven a little bit further. And I think we're in a really good spot. The Shang-Chi in the left lane, I think, is just going to bombard them in a lane that they thought they had locked down. I think it's going to completely swing it back in our favor. They can't do a Killmonger because with the Shang-Chi last turn, they grabbed initiative. So it is unfortunate they're not going to be able to do the Killmonger play unless they have an Invisible Woman. All right, so they move the Jeff. The Legion comes down in the left lane, which is actually really, really big. We do have the Kitty Pryde that's going to be 11 power in mid, and then Captain Marvel, she can go to the right, she can go to the left. It doesn't matter. She has that choice, and she goes left because I assume it resolves left to right in trying to figure out a way to win the game, and so she moves over to the left. We are perfectly fine with that. We'll grab our 4. Let's jump into a game where we showcase Spider-Man. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. All right, next up we have Irish Beef Piston. I'm not sure what that means. Fisk Tower is interesting because Spider-Man, if it grabs something, it will destroy both of those cards. And so we could grab something, maybe send it over into Fisk Tower. So if they're going with just like one really big card in a lane, so like a Lockjaw, we could yank the Lockjaw out and destroy it. They do have Kitty Pryde. Sanctum Sanctorum is interesting. And honestly, we may do Angela into Spider-Man. Spider-Man, when he moves, if he is played into a lane that doesn't have a card in place, he still moves. And so there's a chance that he moves into Sanctum Sanctorum. If not, we do have the Captain Marvel. I shouldn't have snapped. I've been running people off. Every time we get an ideal Spider-Man line, I've been running people off with the snap. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please stay with me, Irish. Oh, Beef Piston. Okay, so the Kitty Pryde in Fisk Tower is fine. They're making sure that it can't get destroyed from, like, I don't know, Juggernaut. Let's go ahead and do we prioritize the Spider-Man or the Jean Grey? Jean Grey's not huge because they have the one cost that they can play every turn. So let's do the Spider-Man. We'll see where it pulls. I assume we pull a Sauron. Sorry about you. We're going to move over into Washington, D.C. with the Sauron. Not where we wanted to move, but I think it is what it is. So actually, with the Sauron play, I do now think that Jean Grey is going to be our win condition. So if they're looking to do a Taskmaster, they're going to have to play probably their big card in Fisk Tower, and then they'll do their Taskmaster into that same lane, both of which are going to be easy Shang-Chi fodder, and just overall, it's really hard for them to win. We have the Nightcrawler, we have the Jeff, the Captain Marvel to move into Sanctum Sanctorum. Wow, they flood a lot of cards here. Maybe they don't go with the Shuri. Okay, there's the Ebony Maw, the Zero. Wow, this is a lot of cards. Titania, okay. Kitty Pryde, goodness, that is a substantial amount of cards. Let's do Captain Marvel. I'm going to leave Nightcrawler for now. We probably move him next turn, but maybe not. Maybe we just play Jeff into Sanctum Sanctorum and do something like Legion. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so the Red Skull is to be expected. If they want to use Taskmaster to copy it, then they do have to play it into the Jean Grey lane. So very just disruptive for them in general. Let's do the Nightcrawler. We go ahead and do Jeff here as well. And I think the Shang-Chi is going to clear up this left lane. And I think we have this one pretty easily locked in. The Typhoid Mary is big, not the Taskmaster. We knew that they couldn't use an Armor or a Cosmo because of the Sauron. And so we have the huge Shang-Chi value. And that is the only scary thing about the Sauron decks, is that it pumps an absurd amount of power. But if your opponent has a Shang-Chi, a lot of times that is in vain. So we will take it. Spider-Man got used. Did he win the game for us? No. Did he keep an extra space here so that our Jean Grey had space to force them into playing in this lane? Yeah, we can say that. And so we're going to take the 4 cubes. Let's jump into the next one. All right, next up we have Ed. The first location is Nidavellir, so beautiful for Shang-Chi. We could also Legion in Nidavellir, spreading that into the other lane. So if we have more cards than the opponent does in those other locations, then we get more value than they will. I think we do Angela. I'm going to do Angela into the non-Nidavellir lane. We also have Jean Grey, forcing them to play away from Nidavellir. They have a Bast, so maybe a Bounce deck, maybe a Mr. Negative deck. We don't know exactly which one that is. Let's do Jeff and Kitty Pryde while we get a feel for what else they're running here. They did Bast on 2, so they didn't have it in their starting hand. They also didn't have Zabu. And so I'm thinking this is probably more in line with a Mr. Negative build rather than a Bounce build. And then there comes the Psylocke. So it is ramping into an attempt at something. I'm guessing they're missing their Mr. Negative, though. And so that is a huge piece of a lot of their power. We could potentially yank... Ooh. They reveal first. So Spider-Man can grab unrevealed cards and potentially yeet himself into Fisk Tower, which would be kind of humorous to see, but I don't know. Let's do Jean Grey and Kitty Pryde. We're going to do it into the Onslaught Citadel. I assume that we eventually maybe Legion into one of these other 2 lanes so that the Onslaught Citadel lane goes away. Because every single Mr. Negative deck that I have ever known in my entire life leverages strong ongoing cards. And so I think we're going to try and commit suicide with Spider-Man here. Let's do it. We're gonna... We're living on a prayer here. Let's do the Nightcrawler, the Kitty Pryde. We will move a card, and so if we draw into Miles Morales, it'll be cheap next turn. Let's Prage. Let's see what they hit. Morph. Ooh, Morph could hit our Legion. No, it hits our Shang-Chi, thankfully. What does Spider-Man pull here? What does it pull? The Iron Man? That is what we're talking about. Let's go, Mr. Spider-Man, sir. Mr. Peter Parker taking out the Iron Man in true Spider-Man fashion. Absolutely being the hero. He sacrificed himself for the greater good, trying to take down Kingpin, but he wasn't quite able to. So we have initiative here. Silk becomes a very big liability for us. Maybe this? Right now, they only have actually 2 power in this lane. And so I think this is what we do. I think this is what we're going with. The Kitty Pryde to buff up this middle lane a little bit more. And then we have the left and the right buffers. And if they have another ongoing ability, they're not going to be able to hit that with the Onslaught Citadel to double down on it. I think they're in shock, man. That was a beautiful, beautiful sacrificial Spider-Man, and that is what I have been waiting on. And so, oh no, that's unfortunate. The Jeff committed suicide as well. He saw Spider-Man do it. He said, we're going right down that lane. If I'm going to be the cutest baby land shark, I have to be willing to commit myself to the greater good. Okay, we do still win. I would have been so sad had we lost that beautiful play after that. We are going to go ahead and end the video there. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. What kind of builds are you using for the new Spider-Man? This has been absolutely incredible. It doesn't lean too heavily on him, but sometimes he is absolutely going to just give you ways to win the game that you would never expect. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and a comment down below. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.